Hello guys and welcome to Geopolitical Simulator 4 Power and Revolution 2020 edition. If you're new to the channel, this is not my first GPS series. I have two I've done prior of the 2019 edition. One is China and one is Brazil. So if this is your starting point and you're more interested in those countries, you may want to go check those out. You can find entire playlists of them in the playlist section of my channel. If you're recurring and you've been waiting for this, welcome to this playthrough, this new playthrough, my first ever 2020 edition playthrough. Now, initially, I was trying to pick between Saudi Arabia and Mexico, but I got a lot of requests asking for me to play a small country, a smaller country, like a really tiny country, and build it up from nothing to make a new successful, I don't know, superpower. You guys weren't very specific, but you just wanted to see me take a tiny country and build it up. So I wanted to stay in the region of the Middle East potentially. It's a little harder to do in the Americas unless I go for one of these countries, but they're not as interesting to me personally. So I decided to change up the Saudi Arabia option, and instead I went ahead and I picked Israel. Now, why Israel? I believe Israel is a very interesting country to play. They are a lone democracy, a lone Jewish country in the world. They're lone just by themselves in every ideology and regard in the Middle East. They are surrounded by countries that disagree with them on any and every regard. They've been at war with their neighbors on and off for the past 60 years, several times over. And as such a tiny country, tiny with not even 9 million population, they've accomplished quite a lot. They're not big enough to sustain themselves by any means. They're in a constant disagreement over borders with their neighbors, quote unquote, depending on who you ask, Palestine. And overall, they face a lot of hurdles and a lot of challenges that in real life, as well as in this game, could justify and result in completely changing the identity of the country and changing its path in the future. Like, if you wanted to have some sort of religious stability, look at the Judaism map of the world. 70, almost 8% of the Jews in the world are in Israel. If you wanted to expand as Israel and take over more countries to try to just grow in general, if you wanted to be that kind of player, you basically have to give up having Judaism as your majority religion. Because no matter who you take over, you will be receiving more of some other religion than you will of your own, which can be an interesting thing, seeing as how, if we go to religions, not sects, religions, we'll see that the state power regarding religions does have influence of the official religion and state functioning. Now, in this game, I'm not sure if just the majority religion becomes the official religion, or if there's one that's determined at the start. I don't really know. The game's not very good at clarifying that, but only look at this, 0.2% of the world in this game are Jews. So that's already a hell of a challenge right there. Now, my goals with this playthrough are going to generally be what you guys had asked me for so much with a smaller country. I will take this small country, it's not very populated, its landmass is not that big, and it's surrounded by enemies that outsize, outman, and outgun it, typically. I will take this country and I will try to build it up. This may go militaristically, this may not. We may remain a democracy of some sort, we may not. Right now we have a parliamentary system. That may change. I'm already hating this. Let me clarify something before we get started. It's currently the 14th of March. That is not the start of the game. The start of the game is the first day of the year. So you might be asking, why is it the 14th day of March? Well, unfortunately, Israel starts out with an election because their election cycle starts, I think, in like mid-2019 or something. But unfortunately, instead of just skipping over the election, they decide to start you with 64 days in the election without any ability to really do anything to make yourself, established. You will start at 50% popularity as if you had not been in control of the country at all before starting this game. So I wanted to essentially get through the election before starting the playthrough, because you have so little control in those first 2 months. Almost every option in the game is blocked off from you, because when an election cycle is active, you lose the ability to make most decisions or change most things in the game. Instead, they become election promises. Now, I'm going to be upfront. I experimented for hours trying to get through these elections normally, and it did not work. if I did not basically promise to send our country into massive debt, then this one bitch Hannah beat me every single time. So I went ahead and I used God and Spy to make sure I won successfully. Now this had a adverse effect that I was not expecting. The parliament is entirely made up of my party now. I didn't realize this was like a dual election. So this is a very weird start, but if we did not do this start, then this playthrough would crash and burn at the beginning and last probably just as long, if not shorter, than Saboutz's Israel playthrough. That being said, I've also changed the leader of Israel to this generic-looking Alexander Gorian man, for the sole reason of that he's 35 and not in his 70s, which means he's far less likely to die. And then you get to the only other thing that I've actually used God and Spy on so far, which is the health of the leader, to bump it up to at least around where the actual leader would be in his 70s. Now, some personal goals that I'm going to be setting aside from simply grow this country, simply fix its problems, try to expand its economy, its population, all that stuff. I've set some personal goals for myself. I want to try to, at the very least, narrow down the democracy of the country. It's almost considered a perfect democracy by the game standards, and I'd like to reel that in a little bit, because as it stands, the electors of the country have a lot of power. Like, this has the power to remove you in a split second should they want to. But before I get started on any of that, we're going to go to the UN. I'm going to ask for status of permanent member on the council before I start pissing off the electors of the council by radically changing the concept of Israel and the status of my country. Now, I have done some things while I was going through the elections. Do note, I only actually interfered with the elections at the very end of the elections. So for a lot of it, I was actually doing things, which is how my popularity went up. And that means there's actually some things to go over here, such as we have some allies here. Let me show you a couple things I've done. So go to status. I've met with certain countries. I've met with Brazil, the Bahamas, Poland, the United States, and Senegal. And I've gotten a full alliance with all of them except Senegal, with full transit rights for all parties involved for all of them except Brazil and Senegal. That means my current allies, as things stand, are the United States, Poland, the Bahamas, and Brazil. You start out with no allies as Israel in this. Another thing that I've done, I've gone into the aid screen here, and I've taken away basically all the economic aid that we were giving anyone. I mean, I'm actually a little confused. Okay, so there was someone else receiving aid, apparently. But it's not much. Maybe that was it. I don't know. Let's take a look. They're responding like they're getting mad at me. Alright, well, apparently someone's getting a tiny amount of aid from me, and I don't know who it is. You'll see I did make some campaign promises that we should go ahead here and adhere to. One of the most important ones here is abolishing the national service. So we're going to go into the army screen, and we're going to abolish the national service right at the very start here. It will save us $4 billion a year when it goes through. $4 billion. And thankfully, our party is all for this. I'm forgetting that I have to actually have this voted on. When I played Brazil, I went dictator about 20 or so episodes in because I got tired of dealing with my electors, my Congress, all those guys. I got so tired of dealing with it that I just went full dictatorship just because I couldn't bother with it anymore. They were getting in my way so much. And playing as China, I never had to deal with them to begin with. Request accepted. Okay, so they're going to consider us for a permanent member. If they do consider us for a permanent member, that really opens us up to maybe taking the fight to the Muslim world and settling a lot of Israel's grudges that have been accumulated over the past, essentially, 60 years or so. We have a couple other things we have to adhere to, such as some manpower, employing seniors video games. So yeah, it was on a televised debate that I actually went ahead here, and I promised to do this. Just this. Because she promised to do like one tick somewhere else, I don't know where. But I did promise to do this, so let's go ahead and do this. Look, I've upheld my promise. Love me. That's all I have to say. Love me.
On this.
Okay, and we're obtaining information on terror suspects. Ah, yes, I actually did infiltrate the Martyrs for God at one point, and I did a partial dismantlement, but only partial, unfortunately. Let's place him under surveillance. None of this really screams terrorist to me at the moment, so I'm going to go ahead and ignore most of that. We also have the Russian Mafia, which is unfortunate. I have gone ahead and I've gone one tick up on agent training because that is one thing that I was allowed to do while the election was still going on. I might as well just go ahead and keep my other campaign promise here because it was a small one, and that was just to get the number of manpower, teachers, up to 175,000. It's going to cost an okay amount, but let's just go ahead and do it. It's small in the grand scheme of things. We do start out with a sizable debt as Israel, 60% of our GDP, which is unfortunate. A budget deficit initially of about 14.06 billion US dollars as they stand right now in the game, which I've gotten down over time just passively and also by doing the abolishment that I just put into motion, down to 9.42 billion. Now, what's funny about this is almost 5 billion of this, now more than half of this, or about half of this now, is just reimbursement on the debt, which makes getting out of this debt pretty difficult. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, the tax on industrial pollution, which was very bugged out, let's just say, it wasn't even bugged, it was just poorly designed. In the 2019 edition, where you could set it to 10%, for example, they fixed it in a couple ways. It's no longer unrealistic in that it doesn't affect your growth basically at all while generating obscene amounts of money. It still generates obscene and unrealistic amounts of money, but they have made it so that if you do try to max it out, basically, you're going to see at least like 20% almost reduction in growth, which would destroy your economy. They've also seemingly maxed it out here at 5%. I have experimented with it, and I can't get it above 5%. So they've definitely lowered the overall amount of it as well, because you could go really damn high with it in the 2020 edition. So it's cool that it has an effect now, I guess, but that makes it difficult to use it for the same purposes that we've used it prior. There's no more taxes to immediately solve our deficit, which is unfortunate. That being said, all of our debt currently is taken with very low interest rates, as you can see, and our improval of our deficit has actually gotten a lot of these rates lowered as things stand, which would technically lower the debt reimbursement rates. Apparently Egypt is defeating the jihadist caliphate, so that's good. That means our neighbor is more peaceful. We don't like the jihadist caliphate, but we also don't like Egypt. We've been at war with them several times in the past 60 years, and they are a potential target for us to take over. However, as things stand, their military might is almost equal to ours, though I'm sure one-on-one it would be a lot more difficult than those bars make it seem. Oh, we got a little cargo plane. We have one airport, guys. We have actually just a singular airport. I know some ways we can save on money, by the way, guys. Let's take a look. We have so many bases, so many air bases in Israel. And while I'm sure this is realistic, in almost no other country do the developers of this game try to realistically represent the amount of bases. For this reason, because you get a lot of things clumped up together. For the USA has 1,000 military bases around the world. This game gives them like 10. That's maybe wait, actually no, that's about right now that I think about it. But Israel, we have like as many bases as the US has overseas, all in one tiny little province. And let's be real, this is excessive. There is just no need for this. We can definitely afford to get rid of some of this stuff. It might save us some money in the long run. Although we have to make sure to do it while not antagonizing our military leaders. But as we can see, there's definitely a purpose to undoing some of this. So let's take care of this up here. Let's allocate everything in this military base over to Ramat David. I'm going to assume it's David because we're in Israel, and I assume it's going to be David instead of David. But who knows? Maybe it is David. It unfortunately costs money just to dismantle them, but at the very least, I believe it also would lower your budget overall anyway by the time it's done. I don't actually know. They only show the cost of having bases in foreign countries. They don't show it in your own country. So while time is passing and we're just doing all this stuff passively, I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give our country its first ever oil well. We don't actually have any, and I did do some looking around, and there is some over here by these Middle Eastern borders that we can take a look at. Let me slow this down just while we're doing this. We can get 5 in this province. Unfortunately, the best we can get in Israel itself is average, and it's only up here. I haven't found any anywhere else in the province. Like, you'd think there might be some over here, but it's very weak everywhere else I look, unfortunately. We don't actually really produce any oil as things currently stand, so producing our own would definitely help gain us some energy independence and may have a pretty giant effect on our economy when it finishes. So we've gone ahead there. You know, I didn't actually look at what that would take to make. No, it's pretty damn cheap to put down an oil well. It is going to take... Well, what if I had sped it up? Oh, it would have cost a hell of a lot. Oh my god, that's so much money. Well, it's going to take 4 months to complete, and I'm just going to kind of let it build by itself because I assume it will have a fairly decent effect on our economy given the fact that our population is so little. Simultaneously, our energy situation is... Well, it's a situation. We don't actually make enough energy. Well, we do, but barely, for our country, and as we grow, this may become problematic. There's not really any good places in this country to do wind power. There's average, that's the best. Solar power is also pretty meh. I spent time looking around. There is good at some locations. No very good. Usually you want very good, but good may be the best we have to go for. So we can go for solar power. I'm assuming that the wind and solar powers are as OP in the 2020 editions as they were in the 2019 editions. We have some good places for offshore wind as well, but because solar just seems to basically be the cheapest, not necessarily for the amount of power it's going to give us, which is cheapest overall, let's just try to rely on placing some solar. So where is somewhere of ill consequence that we could set up some solar plants? This whole area down here is basically worthless. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a solar plant down there. We should only need the one. They always provide more than they say. At least they did in 2020 or 2019. So we're going to set that up. I do have autosave on, as you can see. In the 2019 edition, I never had autosave on, which was because every time you saved, the game got a little bit more corrupted, which was just extremely fun ruining. I've been told that this game fixes a whole lot of bugs, although I have already seen that it introduces some new ones. So I'm going to leave autosave on, and we're just going to hope for the best that the 2020 is not as broken in that circumstance as the 2019 edition. We unfortunately have just been issued $3.53 billion US worth of debt. That's a shame. That's going to bring up our debt reimbursement. That's because we just passed into another quarter of being in a deficit. So that's unfortunate, but we're doing what we can. Our Abolish National Service is still being voted on, so the budgetary impact actually has not been reflected yet, even though it's showing it here. It's just assuming it's going to be accepted. It hasn't actually been accepted yet. Unfortunately, only 3 countries wanted us as a permanent member of the UN. 5 were against us, including a permanent member, which means we're being vetoed by China. That's a shame. Well, in that case, I don't really have to worry about it. I'm going to go right ahead over here to, no, not here, go to Parliament. And we're going to determine the powers of Parliament, and we're going to take this down a notch. We're going to just assume there's been this big, conservative, right-wing revolution in the country, and maybe the extremely far left-reaching status of democracy, which isn't a far left thing, but compared to the people in power, it's pretty far, is just on the way out. We're going to take it down one teeny tiny notch, just getting rid of the ability to vote no confidence against the head of state, and we'll see that the right-wing parliament is all fucking for this. You know what? It's pretty impressive, actually, as someone that is from America and the US, that if one party owned the entire fucking Congress, the House, whatever you want to call it, that they would not get unanimous votes, that there would be any disagreement at all. We've infiltrated the Martyrs of God again. Interest rate negotiation. Yeah, that doesn't work very well, though. We've had a good start because we've passed something, the law abolishing the national service. Okay, so the national service is now abolished, and it hasn't reflected yet, but all of our conscripts will become career soldiers momentarily. It does show that we don't have it here, though. Now, this guy's already angry at us, the chief of the army, because of how I was dismantling some military bases. Now, I'm not sure. I'm going to test this out. I'm not sure how commandos work in this edition of the game. I'm going to recruit some commandos. It's weird. In 2019, when you recruited commandos, usually pacifists were happy, and people like the military, they weren't. I don't know why, but this is a good time to test that and figure out if it still works that broken way or not. Militarism. Okay. Okay, we're having a demonstration already. Great. Playing as a democracy in this game is so annoying, because you always get non-stop riots and demonstrations and sit-ins. Oh god, I hate it so much already. So what they're actually protesting is me reducing the powers of the Congress. However, if I keep going this route, eventually we will get to a point where we can shut all nonsense like this down. So something seemingly interesting has happened here. So for one, our agent in the Russian mafia got shot. He's dead. I've set the infiltrated agent in the Martyrs of God to try taking it down. It's been about a week. Our Secret Service isn't the best, so I don't want to take too long or have too much of a risk. Our economic data is all adjusting. Our unemployment just took a sharp spike up out of, like, nowhere. Like, nothing really has happened. Oh, no, wait, actually, I know exactly what did it. And that is what I just realized over here is that in the 2020 edition, I guess, unlike the 2019 edition, when you get rid of the service, the national service, the amount of troops just takes a fucking pitfall. Like, those people that are now unemployed were once soldiers. They were just thrown into the unemployment pool because the conscripts didn't become career soldiers. And while that is more realistic, I was not expecting that, because in all my experience of the 2019 edition and prior, whenever you end the national service, you get a bunch of career soldiers where you had conscripts. So to see that that's not the case anymore is pretty interesting. So let's at least give this a little bit of a bump up. This may be a little more expensive now. They may have gotten rid of the whole purpose of doing... I mean, what if I add like a 1 to this? What's the price of that? Oh no, this is still cheaper. This is still cheaper than conscripts. Let's bump up our career soldier number to 40,000 then. It'll cost some money, but we've just saved a whole bunch of money. Our budget deficit is now down to 7.84. It all came out of defense. Now, as you see, we have about almost 8 billion to make up, but here's the problem. Where do I pull 8 billion from, or where do I get it? When, you know, my unemployment now is getting higher, my population is seemingly in a lot of poverty, but apparently this is around the world average. I'm not quite sure how to approach this yet. Now that I've purchased some more troops, the Minister of Defense and the Chief of the Army they're both very happy with me now. They're both very happy with me now, which is good, because now I have another, well, justification, another chance to go ahead and start getting rid of some more of these very, very redundant air bases. I don't even know which ones to keep, if I'm being completely honest. I don't even know which ones to keep. So let's get rid of Sedat Mika, and send them over here, because this is somewhere else. This is another location. And just save some money in the long run by dismantling this base. The world must see this as like a great dismantling of the military of Israel. Except it's not. It's just me not realizing how things in 2020 work yet. Hey, we're back in a country that has billionaires that we can meet. Now, only one of them likes me at all, and that's the right-wing billionaire. So we're going to try and meet him. I might as well meet this guy just in case. Just to get some funding for our parties. I've gone ahead and I've been doing some polling to try to figure out some things we could do, what will be voted for, what our people hate. The problem is, if we're going to get out of our deficit, if we're going to get out of debt, it's going to have to involve doing some things that will make the Israeli people maybe dislike us a little bit. So, to make sure I don't go too far with that, I have to definitely meet with some of these guys here and liquor them up. You're radiant. You're very, very radiant. You're richest and most generous. Now, fund my party.
Yes.
Thank you. And, join my party.
Yes.
Yeah. There you go. And speak highly of me in public. Oh, beautiful. You're such a good guy, Oded Jayan. Such a good guy. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, liquor some guys up and get some money from them so we can continue doing this kind of polling while we need to do polling. Maybe I'll get the situation to a point where we won't need to do polling. Alright, this guy doesn't like me, but he's falling for it. He's fallen for all of it. Okay. But he still doesn't like me. He likes me a little bit better now. Fund my party? Yeah! Speak highly of me in public? No? Okay. Sorry. Join my party? Yes, I got the left wing to join. I got the left wing billionaire to join a right wing party. What the fuck? Welcome to this game. Sometimes you'll get so immersed, you can, into the reality of things you can do in this game, and sometimes you get a left-wing billionaire to join the literal ruling by complete, utter, unrealistic majority right-wing party, and you just question everything. Okay, so we just got a boost because of statements in the press and a scientific discovery, so I assume that's the billionaires speaking up for us, and now we've found the perfection of biodegradable plastic. Now, this is my first time on this channel playing a country, and, okay, my menu's bugged. What the fuck? I can't get the plastic industry menu off my screen. Okay, it took several minutes of finagling around, but I managed to get the plastic industry off my screen. I don't know why it did that. As I was saying, this is my first time in this game on this channel playing a country that simply is not very large. We are small, our economy as a whole is insignificant, and as you see, our plastic industry itself right now, it's doing well. It has a positive balance, but it's not even 0.5% of the production worldwide. And even if I kept this for myself, the bonus wouldn't be as important as when we were playing Brazil and when we were playing China, and we had massive amounts of workers to fuel our economy. At this point, it could grow, but our population is so tiny, and our production and everything is so insignificant that I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to patent this because this isn't very important. I believe the only other person to get it so far is China, and they're keeping it as a trade secret. This way, if I patent it, any and every nation in the world can use it, which can actually stop China from benefiting as much from it because, well, we don't necessarily like China. I will benefit from it, but everybody else can as well, and we will profit from those that benefit from it through our patent, which basically means our plastic industry will not thrive as much as it could if I kept this as a trade secret, but key word here is could, very important. But as a whole, we'll probably earn more money due to the small size and scale of our economy and just the relevance of it by patenting it. You know, so somewhere like the US or some other major economies in the world can use it as well and pay us for it. We've also just manufactured microchips, a new generation of microprocessor. What is this? Okay, whatever this is, it specifically affects household appliances, which we literally don't make any of at all. Eventually I want to, but for the time being, I think anything that's not military and is unimportant, I'm just going to go ahead and patent it so that the entire world can use it, because unless we end up taking a major population or industrial center, there's no point keeping this stuff to ourselves for the time being. Okay, apparently we've seen an encouraging unemployment reduction, though I don't see much of a difference. We got 1 million from Oded J, and that's actually a pretty sizable amount. That's about the amount it takes to launch a fundraiser, I think. So that's pretty good for us. And laws on the power of Parliament has been voted on, and it's gone through. So the powers of Parliament are now down to votes of no confidence against the government instead of the head of state. Next goal will be to get it down there, probably. I think we have a good full episode here, though, so let me know what you guys think of this playthrough. Do you like the kind of weird start of this playthrough? Do you like the decisions I've made so far? Do you like the goals of the playthrough? Do you want to see more of this? Do you really just hate the very concept of this playthrough? What are your suggestions? What do you want to see us accomplish in an Israel playthrough? Let me know in the comments below. Or if you want, join my community server in the description below and let me know one-on-one in real time to make sure I don't fucking miss it. For now though, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode? Maybe? Yes? We'll see.